I can't tell you how scared I am right now. That's because today we are going to be talking about the mental health tips. You don't just need a healthy body, but a healthy mind as well. And this is something that's brought to you by the Original 100, which is my members who support me monthly on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to my channel. First, let's acknowledge just how much effort it takes to keep our shit together. When I was compiling a list of things that I do to stay sane, I realized just how many of them there are. So congratulations to everyone who hasn't gone crazy yet in this insane world. A lot of things that I'm going to talk about stem from one general principle, which is you can't be on all the time. Why? The short answer is sooner or later you're gonna burn out. Actually, sooner. And the long answer is this is not what you've been built for. You can't do it. I mean, think of the hunter-gatherer societies. There was the period of high activity of hunting and gathering, and then there was sitting around the fireplace. And also think about our pre-modern ancestors. There was sowing, there was harvesting, and then there was also winter in which you repaired your tools and prepared for the period of high activity, but also hung out with your neighbors. And recently I found out about the carpenters of Edo period in Japan, where they would work shorter days in the winter because of the sun not being available, and also they wouldn't go to work on the days when it was raining. And if you don't believe your ancestors, the hunter-gatherers and the carpenters of Edo, you can believe Cal Newport, the productivity guru. He will tell you the same thing. Alright, so let's move on to my tips for mental health. Oh, hi, I'm Paavo. I'm an anthropologist and I have no business dispensing fitness advice or advice about mental health, so take it with a pinch of salt, everyone. The amount of information that is coming at us these days is simply staggering. I remember this study where they calculated using very complicated formulas that in 1986 we would have 2.5 newspaper pages worth of information coming at us every day. Now, guess what it is today? Pages? Newspapers? Well, 100? 150? Well, more like 174 newspapers worth of information, and that was in 2007. Well, in 2008, the smartphones have entered the stage, and it's anybody's guess what is it now. You have to protect yourself from this, and that's what my tip is. Reclaim your attention from the phone. How to do it? Well, delete as many apps, especially social media apps, as possible. I don't have Facebook or Instagram or even YouTube Studio anymore on my phone. They were just too absorbing. I only kept WhatsApp for communicating with my friends and family, and another app for communicating with my members. I use a minimalist phone app which gives me a list of apps that I can use, and it protects me from colorful icons that are just drawing me in to click on them. I also turn all my notifications off, and where possible I use the flight mode, or even I switch the phone off completely when I need to get something done. That's because this creates friction and a pause, so I don't reflexively reach for my phone and check the messages. I am able to think about it, what I'm doing and why, and usually I don't want to do it. It's just a nervous tick. Another tip is not to text so much. I would say that a lot of times you can get all the information and better contact with people by calling, and it's gonna take a shorter time. Have you ever been in a chat conversation that went nowhere for half an hour and with pauses, where you could get the same thing accomplished in a 3-minute call? If you like this type of content, please like, comment and subscribe because it really helps with the algorithm, and watch till the end of the video when I talk about the membership. If you can, repurpose your apps. I use WhatsApp with one of my friends as a letter delivery service. She's busy, I'm busy, we're in different time zones, but yet we do have a very good connection, and we write to each other these long WhatsApp messages basically like you would write letters in 18th century to a friend on the other side of the world. And instead of being shipped by a ship, they get delivered instantaneously. If you're lucky enough to have friends like that, do that. Don't think that just because people don't answer you immediately, they don't care about you. Now, here is the final tip about the phone. You can try and hack it for good entirely. That is, you can try to switch off all the reminders and messages that are distracting you and replace them with messages that are going to be empowering and are going to help you to accomplish good stuff. For example, you could set your notifications to remind you to meditate or to do some exercise or to do one of those 1-minute sprints that I was telling you about. For example, I have a reminder set on my phone which says, practice kindness or another virtue, and it's set for Fridays. Well, I can't tell you that it makes me a better person or anything, but it sure makes me pause. My tip number 2 could sound a little bit sketchy. It's don't watch the news, but pick up trash instead. I guess you need a little bit of a backstory. 2 years ago, while on an overseas trip, I was traveling and I was wondering where I'm gonna sleep on a given day because I didn't pre-plan it. So I was looking for accommodation. I was checking out the sights and sounds of the place, and every day was packed and I didn't have time to follow the news. And what I've noticed is that I was so much happier at the end of those 10 days. So when I got back home, I continued with not watching the news. Of course, I still check what is going on, but no doom scrolling for me anymore. BBC podcasts have this The World in 2 Minutes bulletin, and that's just about as much news as I can handle these days. If you're sensitive like me to the negativity in the news, this is one way of dealing with it. And don't worry, if it's really, really important, somebody is going to tell you. I still worry about the fate of the world and everything, but there is nothing much I can do about it by watching the news. Instead, I pick up trash on my slow jogs in the morning by the river. It's nothing, I guess, but it's something. And it also benefits me because every time I see a cigarette butt, I do a full Asian squat to pick it up. So if I was going to do that sort of exercise in the gym or at home, where I would say, okay, for the next 20 minutes, you're gonna slow jog and then do a deep squat every now and then, you'd really be bored like 60 seconds into it. But this way, time goes by pretty quickly. I get the benefit of keeping myself flexible, and the river looks a little bit better, I must say. You know, it's better than watching the news. Tip 3, it's about how to deal with your mind. Now, your mind is another thing that tries to overwhelm you with loads of pieces of information, aka thoughts. And a lot of times those thoughts are not very nice. If you don't rein it in, things can get out of control. Realize this, your mind is a thought-generating machine. It just generates these things and it doesn't make them true, much like what ChatGPT does. So you're the one who gets to take on board or not the things that it produces. You can say to it, well, thank you very much, Mr. Brain, but we will not be going with dark self-loading today. We're going to try something different. You are the one to observe, filter, and decide. Do not get swept by it. Tip number 4, realize that your body and mind are actually one. That's why some people call it body-mind, and there is a lot of truth in that. Our physical state can influence our mental well-being and vice versa. And sometimes it's really good to break the unhelpful thought patterns with movement. I find that Radio Taiso exercises lift my morning gloom, and slow jogging is a great form of moving meditation. Now there is one more type of exercise that just heals the soul, and that's hiking, because it's done in nature. Which brings us to another tip. Tip number 5, nature. I really know no greater rebalancing power than that. The Japanese have something that's called forest bathing, and the rest of us can just hike like I do and look up into the sky to see the stars anytime you can. We don't mind being small when compared to nature, and it's also something that makes us feel connected to a bigger whole. And in a pinch, a potted plant will do. Tip number 6 is writing, and there are 3 different types of writing that I use to stay sane. The first one is just writing for 20 minutes 5 times a week. Well, obviously, if 20 minutes is too long, write for 5. The idea is that you set aside that time and you grab a pen and paper and you just write whatever comes to your mind. You don't worry about spelling, punctuation, making sense even. Just write. Basically, your brain is taking a dump, and afterwards, do not read this because, it's poop. It's brain poop, basically. Throw it away. For extra release, you can even burn it. That's what I do with stuff that's especially irritating. Now, if you were typing on a computer, just make sure you don't save the file. Just close the editor and then you're done. That's it. There is something about committing all those things that are going on in your mind to paper and then just letting them go. People who do it report better emotional well-being and even better sleep, and it sometimes even helps people find a job when they are unemployed. Don't ask me how that works. Refer you to the studies. Another type of writing is the morning journal. You may have heard about it. Every morning you set aside a few minutes to just write in it your highlight for the day, which is like the most important thing you would like to accomplish. Then you go through the gratitude section where you just prime yourself with all these positive things. And then let go section, which is like you let go of crazy things. And you can also write things you'd like to let go physically. This section actually helped me realize that I should get rid of a certain pair of black pants, which I've bought a while ago, and I've only used them at my father's funeral. That's how the things coincided. And when I looked at them, they were making me feel unhappy, so I trashed them in an environmentally friendly manner. When I started doing this type of journaling, it was very rudimentary at first, and I was able to just write a few words or a sentence, but then it grew. And because it's your journal, you get to choose and pick and create other sections that you'd like. I mean, my personal addition to this is the story section, which is I tell myself a story that's empowering. It fits my circumstances, and I tell myself the best possible interpretation of it. I'm going to give you a very personal example. Maybe I shouldn't, but well, who's going to watch it on YouTube, right? When I've had that terrible time I was telling you about, when my father died, my girlfriend left me, and my PhD advisor started doing things that were, well, outrageous, I felt my university just hit me with a bus, and then they reversed over me a few times, and then they threw me into a ditch, and then they poured gasoline and set me on fire. Well, so far so good, so dark, but then I would tell myself, okay, but little did they know that I was a phoenix. I raised myself from the ashes, and you can see how this second story is much more empowering than the first. I also add a new section, that is the new things I learn or hear, and that helps me to be on the lookout for new things throughout the day so that I can put them in my journal. Be open to new experiences. There's also the Q section for the interesting quotes that I find during the day, and the HO, which is hold on section, which is kind of a reverse of the letting go, because there are important things to hold on to remember who you are, where you're going, and what's the overall big plan is, because we get distracted by the everyday life and we lose track of the big goal and where we want to be as people. The third type of writing I engage in is the worry journal. It's a separate notebook which helps me when I just worry about something and sometimes I can't fall asleep because these thoughts just attack me. I put them down on paper, basically upload them from my brain, and then I set a time that I'm going to deal with them. For example, well, I'll deal with you at 2:30 p.m. on Friday. And that's it. A lot of times you basically find out it is not as worrisome as you would have thought, and it also allows you to just deal with this thing during the daylight hours and take action. I think doing that is so much better than just not sleeping. Well, here is tip number 7, to be bored. Experiments have shown that people would rather have painful electric shocks administered to them than sit alone in the room by themselves. So it's almost painful. However, it's very important for your brain to have this opportunity to process stuff in the background. And Joseph Campbell has said that you should have a sacred place. And the sacred place doesn't even have to be a place. It can be a time of the day. Like he said, a time of the day where you don't know what you owe anybody and you don't know what anybody owes you. It's a place where you can just be by yourself, and if you create that time and use it regularly, eventually some things will come. Basically, you. There will be you, and you'll be on your journey of discovery. You will have ideas. You will have thoughts. You will have epiphanies. This one is a bit tricky and I don't want to be misunderstood, but the hell with it. It's about knowing when to quit. I think in today's society there is too much emphasis on gritting your teeth, powering through, and just persevering. Sometimes that can be bad, that can be toxic. You have to know when to quit. And contrary to what you have been told, quitting is really, really hard. I know this. I've had so much invested in my PhD and the future I thought I would have as a result of it. It was really hard to let go. But these are my international driver's license pictures taken 1 year apart. 6 months before and 6 months after, I have quit the PhD program. I believe that the way that things were going, if I didn't do that, I would be very sick or dead right now. And you have to remember that your loyalty, your utmost loyalty, is to yourself and the ones who depend on you. You shouldn't be stuck in a situation that makes you sick. If you think that the game is unfair and you don't like the rules, it is your right and duty to walk away. Now, the last tip is almost magical. It's about the power of repetition, because you get that insight, you get that thought, you know who you are and where you're going, but what happens next? You forget about it. You get sucked back into life. I mean, how many people you've heard about that they would have this near-death experience and then it would either change them for 6 months or not. Even if it did change them, usually they go back to their old ways after a while. Repetition is one way of ensuring that if you get that glimpse, that insight, you hang on to it. That's why morning journals are so good, because you get to repeat the story to yourself until you internalize the truth. It is so easy otherwise to let it be buried again under the constant barrage of bullshit that is piled upon us each day. I hope you found something that you can use here today. Remember that Bruce Lee quote, "Adopt what is useful, reject what is useless, and add that which is specifically your own." So do that. If you'd like to support me on Buy Me a Coffee, then head over to my webpage there and check out the perks of the membership. Or watch my video of Fit in 3 minutes a week, where not only are you going to find out how you can be fit in 3 minutes per week, but I do the whole spiel on why you should support me on the Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you next time. Bye.